Hello, I'm Stuart Hayes from SuccessionLeadershipChange.com and welcome to Module 1. Today we're talking about one of the most central themes in business management. In fact, it is one of the most central themes in any leadership at all. It is, of course, how do you know when you're actually on the right track? Now, before we begin, I'd like to share a story about how that has manifested itself in my life. And until recently, I didn't even know this was the case. A very close friend said to me recently, Stuart, there's only one thing worse than going in the wrong direction. And that, of course, is going in the wrong direction with enthusiasm. I couldn't believe this. This bit of news, which is so obvious, it hit me like a freight train smack in the head. I sat back and immediately was flooded with all of these situations that had gone right back to when I was a kid, where I have actually gone in the wrong direction and with enthusiasm in abundance. Let me share an example for you. Way back in 1985, when I was a schoolboy runner, and I was a pretty good runner, I wasn't fantastic up until this point, but I decided that I could win the state cross-country championships. I knew it was a hilly course, so I made it my training methodology and my training approach to get out and run some of the toughest and hardest hills I could find near my house day after day after day. When it came to the cross-country finals in a different venue and I made the cross-country championships, I thought, well, here's my chance. I'm going to get out and on the first lap, I'm going to hit that first hill and I'm going to hit it as hard as I can, blow the rest of the field away and go on and take the gold medal. Well, let me tell you what actually happened. We got to the first hill, crossed the road, hit the embankment, and I went bang as hard as I could, and I started running as fast as I could up this massive hill, to me still probably the most brutal hill I've ever run up in my life. And it was successful. I started to put distance into the rest of the field. 5 meters, 10 meters, 50 meters, 80 meters. I'm starting to think, wow, I am actually going to win this race. And then suddenly, I hear a voice. And it wasn't, go Stuart, go. It was, oi, Stuart. I thought, that doesn't sound quite like what I was expecting. So I looked over my shoulder and sure enough, about 80 or 85 meters behind me was a good friend, arch rival, who was coming second at the time, turning off the trail that I was on and going in a different direction. It hit me like a freight train for the second time. What was actually happening was that I'd followed a track that was marked onto the course that wasn't the actual cross-country course. Deflated? You can bet. I turned around, I rejoined the field, but now I wasn't in first position, I was in 8th position. Now I ran on, I didn't win, I acquitted myself pretty well, but the point was I never actually got the message that I was going in the wrong direction with enthusiasm until much more recently. And between 1985 and 2011, there's a hell of a lot of stories that I could tell you, but let's save those for another day. The question I'd like to ask you right now, though, is how do you make sure that you're not going in the wrong direction with enthusiasm? Well, the first thing you can do is to ask yourself the question. And the first thing I can do for you is give you some tips about some of the answers that you might be, or some of the statements that you may be saying to yourself and to others that are a pretty good idea, or should give you a pretty good idea that you are in fact in the wrong direction to some degree. If you catch yourself saying things like, I need more sales, or give me my life back, my staff don't do what I say, my turnover is flat, my business is worth more than people will pay for me, well, to me, I hear that and I hear, you know what? This person may not be aware of it, but they're actually starting to tell me things that indicate that their business is not quite on target. I'll give you some more. You may say something like, I'm the only person who can run this. I need more profit. I've created or bought a job, not a business. I haven't got time to do this. If we could just get this part done first. Or it's impossible to get good staff, or there's no way I could trust anyone else with the checkbook. Well, the same thing applies. You're actually starting to tell me, as an expert in business change and leadership, that there are things about your direction that are probably not on the target and in the way that you would like them to be. Now, of course, actually asking yourself those questions or even identifying that you're off track with the things you say is not always very easy. And I'll be honest, I know no one was there halfway up the hill when I was running and in the lead before I took a wrong turn. And in fact, no one was there at a triathlon when I did the same thing about 10 years later. The point is, the first thing you must do is identify who it is that's going to ask the hard questions of you. Is it your wife or your husband, girlfriend or boyfriend? Is it a member of your family or an employee? Now, it may be that it's all of those people, none of those people, or one of those people. But I'll say this to you, it's pretty unlikely that if the person is your spouse or a family member or a good friend or an employee, that they're actually going to give you what you need. And the reason is simple. Unfortunately, like it or not, our spouses generally have some emotional charging in the things they say to us. Our good friends, well, they don't always want to tell us exactly what the truth is, because sometimes as friends we like to sanitize things and make them a little bit easier to digest. And at the end of the day, most of our staff are being employed by us, and as much as we like to think they're honest with us, they aren't. The best thing you can do is to find the people that can ask the hard questions of you, the trusted advisors, the coaches, or whoever they are, and plug them into the way that you run your business, because they will give you the honest answers, and they'll give you the hard questions and make you look at yourself in the mirror and ask them or answer them truthfully of yourself. Now, how does that really manifest for you? Well, what I'd like to do to help you illustrate that is to give you some of the examples that we talked about earlier and tell you what I hear when you say those things. Here we go. For example, if you say to me, I need more sales, what I hear is, you know what? Your business is not actually real yet. It's not sustainable. If I hear from you that my staff don't do what I say, the first thing I know is that you've probably got poor systems in the business. When I hear someone, an owner-operator, tell me that the turnover is flat, it's generally because they're blocking the growth themselves. They're setting a glass ceiling on top of their growth. If I hear my business is worth much more than this, I can't sell it for that, it generally says to me that you have no idea how to turn your business into a saleable asset in the first place. And that's what the real problem is. When I hear, I'm the only person who can run this business, the chances are you're a micromanager. If I hear you say that you need more profit or that you've created a job, well, what I know from past experience is that you're blurring the role that you have, the dual role between being an owner and being an operator of your business. You've created a job for yourself. When I hear that, it generally means that you're relying on the strategy of hope. And let me give you one single bit of advice on that. Hope is absolutely not a strategy. If I hear you saying, if we could just do this, or when we've done that, then what I know is that you actually are probably really struggling to see the real issues inside your business. You actually can't see the wood for the trees, and you're being clouded with all the urgent things that are popping up, rather than being focused on the important things and being focused on your direction. When I hear you say, I want my life back, what I really hear is, oops, wow, I've made a mistake, and it's a big one. Now, that all sounds great, but what does it mean, and what should you be doing to try to reverse those types of challenges? Well, the great news is there's only a few simple steps that you can take, and they work. The first thing you have to do is to make sure that you've got the people around you who are actually your support base of honest, hard question askers. The people you can trust to hit you with the thing in the head, like I was hit the other day when someone made a simple observation to me that is going to help you to realize when you're off track. The second thing you need to do, of course, is to make a decision to be accountable not only to yourself and to your goals, but to those people that you're surrounding yourself with. The third thing you need to do is to make sure that when you answer the questions, you are actually answering them with absolute truth. That when you look at that person in the eye, that coach or advisor, that you're doing so and you're able to tell them the truth because you know the truth. You've arranged systems and reporting methods and other things in your business that give you that real information and let you be pragmatic about it and not sugarcoat it. Now, the fourth thing that will help you to make sure you stay on track is actually not something you have to do. What it is, it's a realization. But it's a realization that is so fundamental to business and so fundamental to small-medium business that most small-medium business owners and leaders never actually get it. And it's this. You may be the owner and you may be the operator of the business, but they're actually two different roles. You can't be serious. Well, it's true. You are the owner, you're a shareholder, you are an investor in your business. You're also maybe the CEO, essentially. You're the operator of the business. But your needs over here as the operator and your needs over here as the owner are different. And what's important is that you start to realize that you have different objectives potentially as the owner and as the operator. What's important in having that realization is that you start to compartmentalize your dual responsibilities in the way that you work in the business and in the way that you work on the business. It's a very powerful realization, and when you're working with a good coach, they'll help you to make sure that you can do those two things well for the betterment of the business and for your own wealth, which is the whole point in the first place. You're building a business to create wealth, or you're building a business for a lifestyle. Sometimes you can do both. Well, we all wish we can, or wish we could anyway. Now, the last thing that I want you to do is to make a commitment to yourself. The last thing you need to do, the fifth thing to make sure that you're always on track and keeping on track, is to become a lifelong learner. Commit to being a learner. Commit to becoming an expert in what you do. Commit to becoming an expert in all the information streams that come out of your business, because those information streams are the lifeblood of your ability to keep on track and move into the future in the right direction. Thank you very much. I'm Stuart Hayes. I look forward to seeing you in the next module.